A podcast and you're excited about the opportunity. And pretty soon you get an email that says podcast guest release. There's an attachment, right? Suddenly you're wondering, wait a minute, what exactly am I signing? If you've ever had that reaction, I want to tell you you're not alone. Now, today, I'm going to explain what podcast guest releases are and why they're usually a good thing, what you should pay attention to before you sign, and why, in most cases, they are a fair deal for everyone involved. But before I do that, I want to introduce myself. I'm Gordon Firemark. I'm called the podcast lawyer in podcasting circles. I'm an entertainment, media, and business lawyer who works in the creator economy. And I've been representing folks in this industry, both on the hosting side, the guest side, everything else, going on 30 years across the whole entertainment industry. And ever since podcasting really became a thing. And I'm here today to tell you why I think it's a good idea for you as a guest to sign an agreement with the host in the form of a guest release. So let's start off with explaining why hosts use guest releases in the first place. They aren't trying to take advantage of you. No, what they're trying to do is document the expectations. Think about the investment that a host makes in their show. They have to find the guests and schedule them, prepare, record the episode, edit the episode, publish the episode, and promote it, all at their own expense for the most part. So by the time your interview is released, they've often invested many hours and lots of resources into creating that content. The release helps ensure everyone understands what happens next. So what you're agreeing to is this. Now, many guests imagine that they're giving away all kinds of rights, but in reality, most guest releases simply confirms things that are already expected. When you agree to be interviewed, everyone generally assumes that that interview will be recorded and it'll be published somewhere. It'll be clips being shared to promote it, and the episode will remain available indefinitely. The release simply documents those expectations. So, a reasonable guest release usually allows the host to record the interview, there's the consent, and publish it, to edit it for clarity, to create promotional clips, and to share excerpts on social media, and to archive the content, and that is keep it and use it for their own purposes going down in the future. Now, none of that should come as much of a surprise. In fact, it's usually the entire purpose for which everybody's participating in this. Now, before I go further, I do want to just say the AI is becoming an increasingly common tool in the podcasting world, just like it is for everybody else. Lots of modern guest releases now address AI-assisted editing. That doesn't automatically mean that something is wrong. A well-written release can permit the AI tools to be used to improve audio quality, remove filler words, improve pacing, to create transcripts and generate clips, and assist with editing for clarity and emphasis. Those uses are generally no different from what editors have been doing manually for years. But there's an important line we need to keep in mind. The AI should help communicate what you said. It should not change what you said. So a reasonable release allows the AI to improve the presentation, but prohibits changes that materially alter the meaning, the substance, the intent, and even the tone. So if AI is being used to create statements you never made or opinions you never expressed, that's an entirely different issue, and it's outside of what the podcast release allows. So what should make you pause when you're looking at these releases? Well, first of all, you should always read these things carefully. Some questions worth asking are, do I actually understand the agreement? Does it match the purpose of the interview, and is the language reasonable? Are there provisions that seem unrelated to this appearance? And is the host willing to answer questions? Now, one such question that I see a lot when I'm talking to my host clients is that the guest is concerned about granting over their intellectual property, and they are not doing that. The guest release does include some language about the copyright and the work made for hire status, but that only relates to the actual podcast recording of the interview. That should be a work for hire. It belongs to the host, not to the guest. And so that's all we're saying. But if you bring your own stuff to talk about on a show, if you have a pre-existing poem or song or something like that, you retain ownership of that, even though you've gone on this show. It's merely your performance and the recording of that performance on the show that is what's transferring and becoming owned by the host. Now, most professional hosts will gladly explain their whole process and assuage your concerns. So, good guests sign reasonable agreements, and they understand that the clarity that comes from that benefits everyone. A good agreement does a good job of setting expectations, preventing misunderstanding, protecting relationships, protecting the investments of everybody involved. And really, it's a confidence builder. It allows the parties to go forward with a clear understanding of what's going on. So the goal really isn't to trap anyone, it's to make sure everyone understands the arrangement before the microphones get turned on. So lots of podcast guest release agreements are out there, and they're not about taking rights away from guests. They're about documenting expectations. A fair agreement protects the host's investment while giving guests transparency about how their participation will be used. So if you're invited onto a podcast and presented with a reasonable guest release agreement, don't panic. Read it, understand it, ask questions if necessary, and in most cases, you'll discover that it's simply a professional way of making sure everyone is on the same page. Now, if you're a podcaster or a guest and you'd like to have a look at a professionally drafted guest release agreement that you could use for your shows and your appearances, there's a free one available. I've made it available at podcastrelease.com. I hope you'll check it out, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks.